BYU assistant head coach and linebackers coach Ed Lamb joining us on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline. Ed, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you guys?
We are great. We know you're out recruiting, so where are you today?
I'm in San Diego. I'm near the heart of San Diego in downtown. Just right now on Interstate 8, between Interstate 8 and Interstate 5.
It's good to be the assistant head coach. You can get Southern California, right, as one of your areas.
Yeah, it's a really productive area and has been, as long as I've been involved in BYU. So we have, I've got San Diego, and General Guilford has Los Angeles. Aaron Roderick has Orange County. We've got Fessy Satake and Preston Hadley that works in the Inland Empire areas, Riverside, San Bernardino counties, and so we've got Southern California covered pretty well.
Ed, we've got so much to get to with you. Before we get into some specific things, I want to ask you a big picture question. Now that spring ball is done, how do you feel things went?
I think our goals, objectives in spring practice, we just have to keep them realistic. I mean, to try to determine whether that the offense or the defense gets better because their success on any given day or a pattern of success throughout spring practice, the opponent is ourselves when we're talking offensively and defensively. So it's really hard to do that. So I think overall what we're looking for is not an end result of success on the field in practice sessions or in the scrimmage, but we're looking for buy-in from the players. We're looking for guys who use the off-season as an opportunity to buy into the culture and do really well in school, get on top of their academics, work hard every day, change their body. Every player on our team is either on a weight gain or a weight loss or a body composition goal, and we want to see how guys progress toward that, and just how they're interacting with the coaches. And I think all of that was accomplished, and I feel really good about it.
With the hiring of Preston Hadley coaching the safeties, you've now transitioned back to the position you played at, BYU linebacker. So how is that group shaping up?
I really like the position changes that happened with Shoni Takitaki moving from defensive line to outside linebacker, and then Zane Anderson moving from safety to linebacker. I think we have a lot of speed on the field, a lot of power. Those guys play the game at a high tempo. Butch Pau has really improved his body composition from last year to this year. I think he is going to be much more looking like his 2016 form. And then Matt Hadley recently was approved for his year of eligibility, and so last year's injury is not going to cost him. So he'll be a senior this fall. And I think right now that gives us at least 4 guys that I would consider starting winning caliber players, and several more, Riggs Powell, Adam Pulsifer. Those 2 guys are really pushing as well for significant playing time, and then a bunch of young guys as well. So I think we've got good depth, and I'm excited about working with the guys.
So you expect Hadley to be a linebacker?
I do, yes. I still think he's one of the best ball carriers on our team, and he'll return kickoffs, and he did a good job at that 2 years ago. We really missed him in that role last year. He was our leading kickoff return guy 2 years ago, but I think we also have some depth at running back right now, and he's not really in the mix as far as I know to be a running back, but I think he's always and has the opportunity maybe or the ability to go 2 ways for us as needed.
You mentioned Sione Takitaki, and I think of all the moves, one of the things that makes me the most excited was hearing that Takitaki was moving from the defensive line to the linebackers. I love that move. What kind of season do you expect from Sione as a linebacker? What do you think is possible for him?
Well, he has incredibly high individual goals for himself, and I don't know if I should share those really. Those were shared in a personal conversation, but I think those goals are healthy and appropriate, and really I try to inspire guys to have individual goals. I don't think that takes away from the team. I think we can't be the best husband or father or teammate that we can be, or employee that we can be without having personal goals. And so he has really high goals for himself. I think he can be among the very best linebackers in America, and it's my job to help him get there.
There's certainly positions to be won over time, but it would look like Butch Powell would be a middle linebacker. Sione Takitaki would be potentially the bow. Are you figuring out who the flash is still at this point, the other starting linebacker?
Coming out of the spring, Zane Anderson was clearly the right guy for that position. I think he goes from being a very good college safety to an NFL prospect at the linebacker position. He's gaining weight steadily. He's not, he's not in a position where he has to gain too much. He's probably needs to put on about 8 to 10 pounds over the summer, and he's done a pretty good job of advancing toward that in the spring. But really, a pound a week is, that's the type of consistent progress that he's going to need, and he's been on track for that.
Ed, let's transition into some special teams conversation. The NCAA announced rule changes to the kickoff. Any fair catch inside the 25 will be considered a touchback beginning this season. How do those new rule changes affect the way you game plan for kicks now?
Oh, that's, there's, within that rule, there's still room for the application of strategy, as you know. And so I think a lot of the changes are going to be ongoing as I figure out or we figure out what our opponents intend to do or what they are doing in games. But just for example, we've had a really strong kickoff team, and we've chosen to be aggressive and hang the ball up and deliberately not stick it in the end zone and give teams the 25-yard line. And so, and we've had success at that. So we've got to determine whether the opponent will still try to bring the ball off of the 3-yard line. And if so, do we have a chance to tackle them inside the 15, as the guys have been really adept at in the past? Or are we just wasting time and making an inappropriate risk, putting the ball close to the sideline, risking that penalty, the risk of having a bigger return? We're not always successful in closing it down inside the 15. So, and then I think just the opposite occurs too on the kickoff return side is how aggressive do we want to be? And do we want to settle for the 25-yard line? And so that same decision criteria that has been occurring on kicks inside the end zone now occurs on all kicks really inside the 25-yard line. And so it's just a matter of aggressiveness. And I think the head coach needs to be involved in that overall philosophy. And then game to game and season to season, it may change a lot. But I can't predict exactly how it's going to play out.
BYU assistant coach and linebackers coach Ed Lamb is on BYU Sports Nation. Do you like the new rule that you can fair catch inside the 25 and have it be a touchback, essentially?
Okay. Like the new rule. Okay.
I've asked you an emotional question.
Yeah, you've asked for my emotions. Well, I do have respect for what the Rules Committee is trying to do for the game. The kickoff is a violent part of the game. There are probably more injuries per play in that phase of the game than there are in other, on any other given play or down a distance or however you would want to categorize it. And so I do think the goal of the rule, the spirit of the rule, is to minimize the contact or violence or injuries in the game, and I think that's good and healthy for football. At BYU, we have really strong special teams because of the type of players that are here at BYU, and so many of them growing up as lifelong BYU fans, and they consider it the privilege of a lifetime to go down and cover kicks. And so I think from a competitive standpoint, maybe this rule will hurt us more than it will hurt other teams if indeed, the majority of teams start opting for that, kind of touchback type field position on balls kicked in between the 25 and the goal line.
For a lot of the reasons that you just mentioned in terms of why the rule is being implemented, do you believe that, because this is something that's brought up in college football, it's been brought up in the NFL as well, do you believe this is a very early step to eventually getting rid of kickoffs in football?
It could be. I really think that's a great question. I think, as I said before, right now we could potentially go into a season, or any team could go into the season deciding to completely de-emphasize their kickoff return team. In other words, you could put just a bunch of guys out there very adept at catching the ball and take the field position minimum 25-yard line on every single kickoff. And you've obviously got to be able to recover the kicks, whether they be onside kicks or anything deeper than that. But that's a fairly good kickoff return team, in terms of national yardage to get that return at the 25-yard line. Consistency, that would be in the top half, I think, of national kickoff return teams statistically. So, in a way, it's possible that kickoff is already being taken out, and it's just going to become more like what you'd see in a spring game, where there's a minimization of contact. There's the skill of being onside and running down, just in case the return team decides to return it.
BYU assistant coach and linebackers coach Ed Lamb is on BYU Sports Nation. There's some guys expected to be on campus who will weigh in heavily into the special teams this fall. Skylar Southam kicking field goals, Danny Jones punting. What role do you see them playing immediately for BYU?
Every player that we recruit, really, we want to prepare them to come in and contribute as starting players with the possibility of earning individual honors, accolades, etc. And yet, we've got to keep in mind that there's always a transition. And so, I think those two guys would fit into that general pattern of what we're hoping for. We recruited them heavily. We've been anticipating their arrival on campus. Skylar's already returned from his mission. He's been on campus utilizing the facilities and working on his own. He's not permitted yet to be working with the team in an official capacity because he's not enrolled in school yet. But he's back, and then Danny will be here in the summer as he makes his transition from halfway around the world.
Well, we look forward to those guys and kind of seeing how the kickoff rules play out as you figure it out and everyone else figures it out. And, Ed, we appreciate the time. Good luck in San Diego. Enjoy the weather.